book. And I'm going to put the speaker on our hosts. So it starts with you guys. I'm just start recording and then we'll get going.
Awesome.
Okay, we're happening.
Awesome. Divine afternoon, everyone.
Are y'all flowing?
Let us know in the chat, how's everybody feeling today? What's new? We're so excited to be doing this interview and just to bring you guys awareness as to like what this is all about. We are putting together the Integrator Summit February 18th. It is going to be an amazing group of presenters and experts in the consciousness industry. We found a need for two things. One, the need to integrate mind, body, and spirit in order to bring you to your next level of self-mastery. And two, the need to integrate the conscious community. So we found that there is kind of some breakages and blocks and separations between age, culture, and where it's time to unify. It's called UNI-verse, right? The universe. We are coming together. It is time. So we would love to welcome Scott Catamas and Omashar because they are both going to be presenting at the Integrator Summit. Hello, you two. How are you?
Good morning and namaste. How beautiful to be here this day. I'm in Colorado, and we have we're in cross weather at the moment, which is the battling of the north and the south for the heat and the cold. So it's down to 1 degree and with winds blowing up. What I'm bringing that up for is because it's like that which happens inside oneself when the light comes in, and that which is not so light and so love doesn't want to let go. And so they kind of push and pull until you realize that there's nothing to fight for actually. So that's my opening statement. Yeah.
I feel like there's a divine reflection there. Yes. Right?
Totally is. It is. And the Integrator Summit, it's like, we are becoming conscious as a family, but it used to be little individual islands. We used to be in our own little rooms and doing our own meditation and stuff. And now we're rising as a group. And because we're joining together now radically and very quickly as a group, it's exponentially our awakening is pedal to the metal. So, yeah.
The Dalai Lama, when asked who's going to be the next Dalai Lama or the next Messiah, has said, there's not going to be one. It's going to be community. The next Dalai Lama, the next Messiah is the human family.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's so beautiful. And I feel like it is time for that. I feel like we're going to start seeing a lot of changes in our government. We're going to start seeing a lot of changes just happening in the way that different countries are being run. The people are going to start having a lot more say in these things. So I'm really excited because what a beautiful time to be alive, right?
It is. It's phenomenal. It's quite exciting. And I think if this had happened a decade ago, I'd have been freaking out. And because it's also a chore. Every day I wake up, I get faced with who I was. And it wants to reassert itself. And there's the part of me which knows that we are creative beings. We come from the heart of the one, and we have creation at our fingertips. But we've also got a lot of amends to do, I think, at least with Mother Earth. And so every day I kind of go, oh God, I got to do my work today. And I'm quite procrastinating and quite lazy. And it takes me about an hour or two before, you get into it, just to do my things, my meditation, my grounding, everything to make me able to walk into the day with an open heart and an open mind and not bring the past into now. And it's so important to do that for me. Yeah.
I love that you brought that up. And that brings us into our first question, like who you were. I feel like us as, these spiritual workers, we go through this icky mess. And we have to deliver ourselves into who we'd like to become. And I feel like a lot of our audience, a lot of our followers, a lot of the people within the community are kind of trudging through that mess now and delivering themselves. So tell us a little bit about like what you were like before, and then like what was that spark that was like, no, this has to change, and then what did you do to become who you are now?
Omashar, you go first.
Oh, really? Well, you know, I have always been like this, and I've been blessed through my life with being able to play music, not necessarily for a living, but for my soul spark. You know, I don't have a Tesla, I have a bicycle, but I have the beautiful skill, the beautiful art of creating music, and that is it's my sword. It's my sword of Michael. And if I'm really bogged down with my old stuff, then I can sit down and play a song. But getting back to the question, see, my mind is even trying to phase it out because it doesn't want to reveal itself. This is the battle of the North and South within myself. And so what I'll say is I've noticed in the last 10, 15 years, I've really tried to cover myself over. I didn't realize how conscious I used to be. And then 15, 16 years ago, my partner then and I had a daughter. And that took me into my heart, and I found that I'd never loved anybody anywhere ever as much as I love my daughter. And that opened me, but at the same time, I took my focus off my music. And so there's a part of me that was kind of quietening down inside, and so I found that I tried to self-medicate and just avoid the subject of awakening. And about a decade ago, I realized that through the teachings and the path that I'm on, that every thought that I have is creative. Every single thought, every feeling I have is creative. Every single feeling. And I thought, holy granola, that means I have to police every single thought, everything, and it was overwhelming. And I think at that time I thought, well, bugger that, and I shut the door. And it's like too much. And it's however, in the last 3, 4, 5 years, now that I realize there's a whole bunch of us doing much of the same journey, I thought, okay, I'm going to embrace this, and I'm going to fully watch every single thought that I have, every single feeling, and also fess up. You know, what I'm doing at the moment is going through my psyche. Okay, where are those crunch moments in my life? Who have I hurt? How have I hurt myself? Do I need to make amends, or can I just forgive myself within myself? And I'm going to stop there because I'm kind of rambling, but it's true. So yeah.
Not rambling at all. Yeah.
Yeah, there's a great Led Zeppelin song called "Ramble On."
I was going there, brother. Ramble on.
Exactly.
Exactly
Scott,
that.
What about yourself?
Well, I actually want to go back to Omashar, to be honest, because people get to hear me talk all the time, and I will share. I'm not avoiding it, but I think this is a good opportunity for us to learn more about Omashar, and especially when he says, you know, oh, I'm just rambling. No, that's what today is about, bro. We want to get to know you. We want to
Yes,
get to know.
I agree, and in the fessing up of that, the rambling thing is what I mentioned at the beginning. Is I brought up with I was brought up in England, very stiff upper lip with no feelings, and I mean no feelings, and I was brought up with guilt and shame, and you cannot do this, and so I'm having to. It didn't matter when I was just going along with life as it was, but as soon as I tried to step into my full self, this stuff tries to crush you down, the guilt and shame, and it's a trip because it's held in my emotional body somehow. And so when I go to talk in a situation like this, for instance, there's this thing which just says no, 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 and it's a part of myself. I'm sharing this because I'm sure that there's many of us that have these I guess ego everyday created thought patterns, because the ego should be our best friend, and what I've learned is the ego only wants to protect. That's all it wants to do: protect, protect, protect. But unfortunately, without the love of the mother, it's become, a very off-sided. And so what I'm doing every day with myself is bringing the love into my heart again, and bringing the mother into my heart, because I've held the mother within me my whole life. And but now it's time for action. And so questions would be good, because then I don't feel like I'm getting lost.
I love what you said about, you feel, first off, I feel like a lot of us were raised with a lot of guilt and shame, right? That is kind of the conditioning that society has impressed upon us. And the idea of the hot and cold fighting each other in Colorado right now, that is something that is happening with a lot of us inwardly. And so you are absolutely right on target to share, because I feel like that is something that a lot of people are experiencing. You have to take control of the unconscious mind and your unconscious thoughts 24/7. It's like a full-time job. It's like a full-time job. No, that's not true. We're going to take that back. And something that Sahat and I practice is, if we say something that we feel like is not in alignment, we say cancel, delete, cancel, right? Cancel it.
Yeah.
And so it is this ever-going evolution of work that we have to put into self in order to kind of reprogram your unconscious mind and reprogram yourself to believe in the divinity that exists within you. And so there was something else that you had mentioned that I love is that you have to talk yourself up to do your spiritual hygiene, right?
Protocol,
I got to do my meditation. I got to open up my heart. I got to do my, and so that is very important, because that is part of that reprogramming process. I'm not sure how old you are, but we have years and years and years of this programming. So we have to do extra work to kind of break that down.
Well, there's another aspect to that. I have lifetimes of it, and that's another thing to expand this out of this context a little bit. I don't want to get into reincarnation or anything like that, but I know that we've existed throughout all of time. Mm-hmm. Many voices, many faces. And I know I carry stuff from my ancestry, but from me in past existences. But what I also would say, there's an irony and there's an oxymoron that's happening, because we think we have to do stuff to get free, but we are already free. When we were born as a glorious child of the great central sun. Let's say, that's my saying, and we already knew everything. And we basically have just covered it over. And so I now, as an adult, think that I have to do work with a shovel and dig myself out, rather than just forget everything I've become in this life, so that I can remember who I was or who I am. And so there's a kind of, it's again the ego thing. The ego thing thinks it has to struggle and toil to become free, but I am already free. And so I kind of have to spiritual Windex my third eye, maybe, so that I can see, and I can see the divine spirit that we are.
That's beautiful.
And that's where that mastery of duality comes in, when you see that we are all nothing, but we are also all everything, and it's that balance in both.
It is.
Find that unity in self and around you.
And it's a challenge to talk about, because it seems to be a little nebulous. And I think the only reason I'm sharing it here is because we've agreed to. But normally this is work that I do privately within myself, because it's like when you're in process, it can get a bit wordy. And the process is personal. It's your own pearl, right? And most of the pearls we have to keep to ourselves until they grow, until I become so conscious that I can speak directly from my heart. Because currently I'm speaking through my mind, and I'm doing my best to be authentic, and because I have no fear of speaking anymore. And it's actually through the Global Peace Tribe and the work that I've done in the last couple of decades that have helped me to know that every day I'll dare to be more and more of myself publicly, and it's okay, because some people won't like me, and but the majority will absolutely adore me, and.
Absolutely, we adore you.
Yeah.
The same. It's a mutual adoration society, and right there.
So would you say that you utilize music in your creation to kind of alchemize some of these lower vibrational doubts that you have within yourself?
Kind of, sort of. I used to be in pop rock bands, and I've been in 5 different pop rock bands, soft pop, and predominantly in New Zealand, where I ran away from England to at 19, and I didn't know why. Went to New Zealand, and New Zealand taught me about family, because they have the Maori there, the indigenous people, and there is relative, not really completely, amount of reparations happened there. So there's a good vibe that goes down there. And I played in pop rock bands, and I realized that the music that I was singing was always half full, half empty. And so I drew a line under that, said no more. And I moved from New Zealand to the States, and I started writing only spiritual music, only conscious divine music. Anything less than that, I did not. I could have albums full of poor me, I love you, baby, but you left. However, I decided not to. And what happens is I just open myself in the song. The song's already written. I just have to put them. It's like a song tree. It comes along with an apple. If I dare to, I pick it, because once you pick the apple, you have to, you've got to take responsibility for that which you've chosen to create. You have to unwrap it, and you can write it into a real simple song. But what happens now is that people don't listen to it unless it's in the genre specific to them, because we have the ego filter. And so the more rocky I write my songs, I can go, we are divinely in one, but I can have it behind a metal band. We are divinely in one. The metal group can hear, yeah, that's awesome. We're divinely as one. What is that? But yeah, it's awesome. And I'll play one song today, which is kind of a pop song. Just to kind of show you where it's at. But yeah, okay, next.
I love that. I love that. Let's kind of bounce back and forth. Let's hear from you, Scott.
Well, gosh, I made a couple notes on things to talk about. I think what I want to acknowledge is that all of us have an ordinary self and an extraordinary self.
Mm-hmm.
And some of us are really focused on the extraordinary self, and some of us are, and most of us tend to be very focused on the ordinary self. And I think it's really important for us to acknowledge that, to really recognize that, yes, there is this, I am a multidimensional being, I am magnificent, I am eternal, and we usually have those experiences through, psychedelics. Honestly, that's how I first kind of woke up when I was 16, or through meditation or yoga, or sometimes lovemaking. We have those moments where we realize the bigger picture, the extraordinary self. Or sometimes the extraordinary self gets tremendous adulation, right? But most of the time we're hanging out in the ordinary self. And in the ordinary self, there often is a lot of shame, a lot of, I'm not something enough. And the awareness of, and I think if we want to go deep, it's because it's really the fall from grace. Now, I don't believe the fall from grace has anything to do with Adam and Eve and eating apples and all of that. The fall from grace is when we dropped into the illusion of separation, when humanity dropped into this, oh my God, I'm just this fragile body that, and we lost touch. And clearly it was a choice of humanity, a choice to bite into the apple to know good and evil. Well, really, what does that really mean? It's a parable that we chose as humanity to experience the illusion of separation for the joy of coming back into unification, but also to experience and learn profound lessons of love. profound lessons of, for Omashar, learning, dropping into the illusion of separation and this British, thou shalt not speak longer than 2 minutes or you are rambling, right? Upbringing, perhaps. I'm just imagining something like that. So there's, he has a timer, right? And he'll be talking and all of us are intrigued. And then his timer goes off, too much, you're rambling now, gotta stop, right? Now we all have shit like that, right? We all have these inner voices that usually came from authority figures that told us we were bad, stupid, or wrong in some way, and that run us.
Mhm.
So coming back to just how can we fully love and embrace our ordinary self, the part of me, and maybe I do ramble, or maybe I do whatever it is, drink too much alcohol, or whatever it is, eat too much ice cream, or spend too much time surfing, the internet, whatever it is that we feel guilty about, right? How can we embrace and love that part of ourselves? And also embrace and acknowledge the extraordinary self. So those are my thoughts that have been going on in my brain while watching you guys chat a little bit.
It's very true because the interesting. It's like I am not worthy, therefore 2 minutes is my maximum. But I also remember just not being heard all through my childhood at all by anyone. And what I've noticed is that most people who come into I'd rather hang out with kids the majority of the time because you can speak and be and play, enjoy freely with them, and you can say whatever you say. I have the privilege of living close to a couple of 2-3-year-olds, and I can speak to them at divine. You realize we're all, look at the sun. There's Mother Helios and Mother Vesta and Father Helios. There's two beings in the sun that sit there. They go, oh, really? Is there? And you can talk freely. But when I was growing up, if I talked in any way that was fanciful, shut up, you're just imagining, that's it. And so consistently over the years, I was just shut up and shut up and shut up and shut up. And thank you, Scott, for pointing that out. And because it's in this forum, there's no threat. I want light shone on the places which I hold me back, because it's not necessarily hurting me, but it's limiting me. I love myself when I'm flowing and I'm free and I'm communicating clearly. So anything that can help me clear that is a blessing.
Can I offer a tool then? And I offer this to you, but it's to anybody who notice the inner voice. So for you, Omashar, notice when your timer goes off, when at some point, there's some part of you, because I've watched this, that says, I'm talking too long. And you usually then will stop it. And so my suggestion, if you're open to it, is making a commitment to notice when my inner voice tells me I'm talking too long. First step, notice it. Second step, take a breath. Just take a breath. And you can, if you're online with, our Global Peace Tribe audience, you can even say, wow, I noticed that I just wanted to censor myself. I just noticed this part of me that says I'm talking too much and I now should just shut up and play music. Acknowledge it and share it with the audience and give us the gift of saying, hey, we're loving what you're saying and you can continue sharing. We would love to hear more. Tell me more. And that gives us the gift of the opportunity to support you in your journey of knowing that we want to hear what you have to say and you don't ramble. So that's thank you very much. And I know that I have some really clear, wonderful things to say. And I think something I just noticed in when you were sharing with me is when I'm playing a song that I've written, the message is already formatted. So I only have to share it, perform or whatever, and there's no deviation. Whereas when I'm speaking from my authentic self, there's the timer comes in.
And so even if I'm feeling like shutting myself down halfway through a song, I can't. I've already jumped on the ship and I'm rolling with it. And so thank you. This is definitely a step for me to be being more open. And yeah.
And that's beautiful advice for all of our listeners as well, because we all have that inner voice.
Yeah.
It might not say the same thing that Omashar's voice is saying. You know, your voice might say something different. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of this. I'm not worthy of that, right? Whatever it may be, bring awareness to that voice. That was beautiful, beautiful advice, Scott. Bring awareness to it and then breathe into it. Breath is the most authentic form of alchemy, right? You breathe in oxygen, you exhale carbon dioxide, right? So energy in motion is what your emotions are, energy in motion. So in order to move that energy, just breathe into it for just a moment. And that is a perfect way to, like what Scott was saying, connect those two aspects of self, the ordinary self and the extraordinary self. That is so beautiful.
Well, it was interesting because sorry, we just had this full moon, and it was pretty powerful. And I was wondering what was that? Wow, I had all this childish emotions arising, and then I happened to jump onto Instagram, and I saw a reel from Ray, and she was running, and she said, "You know what? When you got emotions coming up, you just got to move." And I went, "Okay." It was freezing outside, and I put on my jacket and 2 pairs of pants. And I went for a power walk. So thank you, Ray. So it's amazing how we just encourage each other on to move through things. You know, we're all connected.
I love that. Thank you.
And you bring up a really great point that you were silenced as a child, and many of us were silenced as children, and that energy stayed with us, whether it was consciously or unconsciously. But we don't allow that inner child to really come out and express itself. But when that inner child really comes out, it really opens you up to your most true, authentic self.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
I want to share one more thing just on this ordinary, extraordinary thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I posted this on Facebook yesterday. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's just take a moment at this for a moment. You know, talk about the extraordinary and the ordinary. The extraordinary similarity between the nebula and the human eye, the death of a star, huge event in the galactic world, and the birth of a cell, the splitting of a cell. The universe, the absolute, I mean, there's the universe and a brain cell. And I've had multiple, I'm going to leave it up for a moment while I say this. I've had multiple speakers, you know, because of the nature of the work that I do. I'm so blessed because I get to meet all these amazing teachers and luminaries who are wise, like Omashar and Raella and Sahat. And also people that are a little bit more famous at this current time. And multiple wisdom keepers have said that there is an absolute perfection in the correlation of the human body and the universe. Mm-hmm. And that it truly, and the human body is literally the midpoint, that as far in as you can go to our atomic structure is exactly how far out you can go. It's like, it's a perfect mathematic that the human body is right in the middle between the entire universe and the external world and the entire universe that's inside our body. Mm-hmm. And that little meme that I found on Facebook kind of says that. And again, it just is this, okay, I'm ordinary and I'm extraordinary. I am having this human experience in this animal body, and I am a multidimensional being existing simultaneously in more places than my pea brain can imagine.
Yes. And sometimes it's hard to remember that because we live in a space of emotion, right? And when you're in the ick of it, when you're feeling stressed or overwhelmed or anxious or depressed, it's hard to remember that there's just so much more that you exist beyond this corporeal form. This moment is only a blip in the movie that is eternal time, right? So it's important to bring that awareness back into the moment when you do feel those lower rung or lower vibrational emotions, like this too shall pass.
Right.
This too
Yes.
shall pass.
And it is a vibrational frequency of, I've noticed that every time I go into a lower frequency or a lower emotion or a bummer feeling, it's like tuning your dial. You've tuned it down, and so you can't reach to the joy. And in fact, you don't even know joy exists when you're in those lower frequencies. And so for me, it's like I have reminders all around my studio here of how to raise my frequency. And but it's funny when I'm in a lower frequency, let's say having a bummer moment, which is not very often these days, but they do occur. I don't even see all this beautiful stuff, artwork and affirmations and things I have on my walls here. So choosing. If that is the case, and I can choose joy in every moment. If that's the case, I can choose open-heartedness and generosity and compassion for myself in every moment. Yeah.
I love that.
Beautifully articulated. We have a question from Darina. I would love to bring this to light. So and you guys can take turns answering, what have been the most challenging and the most rewarding parts of your ongoing journey to self-mastery?
Beautiful question.
Omashar, go first.
No, I think Scott should go first.
No. No, we're breaking the pattern, Omashar. In fact, I'm going to continue.
What was the question?
See Omashar.
What was the question again? So
What have been the most challenging and the most rewarding parts of your ongoing journey to self-mastery, self-acceptance, and self-love?
I say the most rewarding parts are when I'm fully in the flow and fully open and fully connected to my inner consciousness and out in nature, and I start seeing the elements of nature alive. I can start seeing, there's times when I've been in England for some reason, and I've looked at the trees and I've seen these little beings. When I'm open and free in my mind and open of heart, I can literally see these beings in the trees. I can see the element of the trees. And if I'm in a really higher frequency, I can see the particles of light just shimmering in the air. The moment I think of it and think, there's those particles, they disappear. However, there's been as I raise in vibration and consciousness within myself, there is an immediate feedback from the outer world that yes, we are alive. Mother Earth is a living being. Everything is a living being, and so let's start respecting each other and let's start building again. And so, that we could go miles down that road. I have so many blessings, so many amazing things that have happened, which have shown me that we are divine, that everything is living, breathing, and pulsing. But I would say one of the greatest challenges for me was my daughter, around 11 years old, decided to decided to live with her mum 100%, basically. Previous to then, it was about I had the majority of her upbringing up until then. Not the majority, but she was in my hands more. I want to say it in a very fair way. But I didn't realize how invested I was in my daughter and how maybe I was even vicariously living through her joy. And so when that was taken away from me, it crushed me. It really absolutely crushed me. I spent a year almost crying into my pillow for the loss. And so what it had done is kind of opened up this chasm in me. And I could have gone down a dark road to fill that void, drugs and alcohol or whatever it is that we use to fill it. But I had this thing happening of I was awakening at the same time. So how can I rephrase this to say that, okay, maybe in some way I'm responsible for this. Maybe I've done so much work on myself. I'm not going to let go of that. But how can I balance this heartbreak with my awakening? And so there's one saying, I don't know if it's Thich Nhat Hanh or someone like that who'd said it, is once your heart's broken, just leave it broken, leave it open, because when the heart is broken open, it may have been sealed closed, and so the heartbreak, even though in the country and western songs is like, my heart is broken, well, good, because now the light can get in and out. And so I've kind of stepped through it like that. And currently I'm that's where it is for me right now. So yeah.
Darina's giving you a thumbs up.
Good. Because that was 3 minutes, not 2.
Golf clap. I love that. And I think it's important too, because we all experience heartbreak, and I have a similar story, but I was the daughter in that situation where my mother and father separated, and I was raised by my mother up until I was 13 years old. And then I chose to move with my father, and it broke her heart. And it wasn't intentional. I didn't, as a child, it's like, well, it's kind of more fun over there.
Yeah.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
And as a child, you also want what you can't have. And today, well, my father's no longer on this plane, but even before he transitioned, I was closer to my mother. Even after I moved with my father, I've always been closer to my mother than my father. And so we've mended that relationship, but her journey has become so beautiful through my healing. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for sharing. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I feel you so deeply. Yeah. Nice reflection.
Yes. Scott,
If I'm going to address Darina's question, and thank you, I love the questions. Darina's really great about coming to Global Peace Tribe shows and asking good questions. So thank you. And also, I really want to acknowledge George, who's been sharing a lot with us today. Thank you, George. I'll talk about most challenging. And again, I'm sorry I'm on this kind of ordinary, extraordinary track today. But what's been most challenging, I think, has been guilt that I haven't done enough. I've been so blessed in this life. I'm a tall, white man who had parents who loved him, right? I mean, and a good brain and a healthy body. I mean, I've really been blessed with everything you need to succeed. And I've done well. I've had a good life. But there is this part of me that feels like I should have done more. And especially now, I'm in the last third of my life, and so, there's that I'd say that's just the biggest challenge is, and I do believe in rainbows and unicorns. I do believe that humanity is going to have a beautiful shift, or at least our tribe is going to have a beautiful shift. I mean, that's a whole other topic. But there is that part of me that feels like I should have done more, or I should be doing more. I should be contributing more to everything, the healing of the planet and the healing of racial division in this country. So that's my hardest part. The more aware I become, the more aware I become of challenges, and the more aware I become of where I haven't done enough, or where I have even contributed, to climate change and global warming and all that sort of thing. So that's I would say the hard part for me.
Wow. I would like to give you flowers really quick, where flowers are due, because you are doing the work. This platform is a beautiful representation of the work.
Exactly. Look at what you've done with just the Global Peace Tribe, and bringing all these people together and sharing your light and sharing the light of others that resonate with this new frequency of energy that we're in. to be those beacons that are guiding others to their light within them. So
You're a lighthouse.
yes.
You are a lighthouse.
Thank you. I receive your flowers and they're beautiful. I'm smelling them and they feel great. And I wasn't fishing for that.
Of course not.
I was just sharing what's the hard part of self-awareness. And
Yeah.
you know, one thing I've noticed as a man, and I'm curious how Sahat and Omashar might relate to this. As we awaken, we become aware of what a horrible job we have done during the thousands of years that we were in control, right? You know, I mean, men, and especially white men, have been controlling things for a long time and have just done a terrible job. And so there is my relationship to the macro, right? And then of course, how does that show up in my life? And I, as a coach, I've noticed that too, that being a sensitive man, right? Becoming more sensitive, what comes with it is the pain of how we have raped our sisters and how we have raped Mother Earth. And that's a pretty painful thing to come to terms with. And I'm just curious, don't mean to shut you out here, Riella, but I'm curious for Omashar and Sahat, do you guys have any relationship to that? Does that come up for you at all?
For me, on multiple levels, because I grew up as such a sponge where I noticed everything. Like I've always been hugely observant of my surroundings and everything that's going on around me. And there were things that, you know, it was always, and growing up, it was always know a child's place, you know, be quiet. So that just made me even more observant, like, okay, I'm gonna sit here and be quiet, but I'm listening, like I'm ear hustling. I know like all the juice and everything y'all doing. And you know, I cognized at a very early age that there was something that wasn't right in this world, like how people were living and this disconnect and everything. And I did see racism at a very young age, but I didn't have that kind of hate in my heart. I actually grew up with the kind of hate and anger towards my father, because my father had almost took my mother's life. And that experience, it triggered a lot of lower vibrational energy within me. And I held that in for years. I mean, I really plotted on when my dad got out of jail, I was gonna kill him. And carried that like from a very early age. And in this early age, I was still learning very esoteric stuff. I was 8 years old reading how to see and read the aura and these myth and tales that my ancestors in different cultures, because I'm a Heinz 57. Like I have so many different, I got like Salagi and Lakota Sioux and Mayan and Igbo. So I have a lot of different cultures. So I am a rainbow child at soul. And that was always that energy of like, there was a duel where I was naturally loving and wanted to play and enjoy everybody's company. But then there was that anger that was inside of me, and it was just kept manifesting until the point where I was like around 11 and I manifested shadow people in my life. And it was correlated through something that was going on with one of my neighbors that was doing some dark magic. And I just happened to be involved, and it triggered my manifestation of my anger into something physical that I had to battle. And it took me a couple of years to really embrace that light within and not hate anymore, and really hold on to that light, because I grew up religious and I knew that, yeah, that we do have to walk in that love. We have to be that love that we want to receive. And that was something that always stuck with me. Like, okay, if I want to receive love, I have to be that love and I have to give that love to others. So it was this anger towards society and how things are structured, but not at people like, oh, it's white people. Because when I started to study history, I started to see that white people went through some stuff, and they went through slavery, and they went through some horrific things that triggered that anger, and they were being fed lies by the higher up people.
The elites.
Yeah, the elites. They were like, oh, you guys are trash, but you're also better than everybody else. So it creates this like this dual nature within.
Dissonance.
And it was very strategic how it was playing out, this colonization. So it's not just, oh, white people messed up the world. It was a collective that we all went through. And not everything that's in our history books is factual. So I meditated on a lot of things, and I saw that, first of all, we came to this planet together. And we came to this planet in unity and love to get away from that craziness. But then that craziness that we were running away from followed us here, and it got mixed into his storybooks. And so knowing that and seeing how that it's not just anybody's fault. First of all, like, we have to go within and alchemize the things that we find wrong with ourselves, that we've been holding on to ancestrally in these cycles. And it's all in our blood, epigenetically. It's in our unconscious part of our mind, which is in our first mental sphere that's located in the back of our mind. So there's all these correlations of where this energy is being held onto. So I feel like that might have been an extended way of did I answer the question?
Really interesting what you're sharing. Really interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Spirit just came through me real quick.
Yes, she did. It is, and I hear you, Scott. The patriarchy has totally done a number on this planet, and also coming from Britain, who had the audacity to cut down all of its forests in the last centuries and build all these ships and go around the world and own all these countries. There's just it's like the Wizard of Oz. It's just the one dude going, I own everything, and now Britain's paying for it. Karma. Excuse me, I'm not British. I'm a global citizen. Anyway, the patriarchy without the balance of the mother has taken us down a dark alley. And although I see it and accept it, I'm here as a remedy. I'm here as a solution, and it's 100% of what I'm here for, is to be the solution. And I don't think the solution from me, for some people it is, but for to go out on the street and protest this, that, and the other, I have to change everything inside myself so that I can reflect out, at least into my little world and to this little world, the truth. Because then that builds and that builds and that builds, and exponentially we'll have the world that we could have, would have, should have inherited. However, it may be a slow process, but right now, everything out in the world is rock and roiling, ROIL. And, I only hear my news through hearsay and through, I don't look at the newsfeed anymore, because I totally only want to look inside, not to ignore or deny that which is happening, but the growth has to happen here, and then I can at least speak the truth to those around me, or at least as I see it, and start to balance the feminine within myself, because we are equally male and female, and we are. That's just how it is, and I always wondered. I've done a lot of workshops in my time so far, and always, 75, 85, sometimes 90% would be women there, only women. And I would never notice that I was in a circle of 100 women. It's like, and there's 3 men. It's like, what? I didn't notice until someone pointed it out to me. So do you realize there's 3 men amongst us? Because I never saw that separation. And so anyway, that's my 2 minutes and 8 seconds.
That's beautiful, though, that you're not aware of that separation. When I was younger,
I never have been, neither with color. And in England, it's very interesting because I was brought up with a homophobic, racist, bigoted father, an atheist family. And England's a real interesting hodgepodge of, England's been conquered so many times. And it's a mismatch of Jamaicans and Indians and Pakistanis and Indonesians. And it's a total, it's quite interesting. And so I've been in America now, for the United States, should I say, for a couple of decades. And I didn't realize how messed up it was, the race thing. I didn't realize how entrenched it was in people's psyches. And I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Not as in taking responsibility for it, but kind of sort of just being compassionate for it. It's like, why do we go here? Okay, then I'll draw a line and say, okay, I am the remedy. I am that which, I'm the solution, and I'm joining with other people who are part of the solution. So, yeah.
And we thank you. We honor you for that.
Yes.
I remember when I was a child, I was friends with a girl named Emily, and she went to we both went to all Catholic school, but mine was more in the inner city and hers was like in the suburbs of Chicago. And so she had a sleepover one night, and she invited me to her sleepover, and they were like, her family was white, her friends were white. It didn't matter to me, but one of her friends was like, oh my God, Emily, you didn't tell me that she was Black. And she walks up to me and she goes, oh my God, you're Black? Like, I didn't even notice. Like, and she totally made a huge joke out of it because it's not about that. We were kids, you know what I mean? But that left an imprint on me, because for a long time, that's what people saw.
Yeah.
But when you finally find someone who's genuine, who sees beyond whatever the color of your skin is or whatever the texture of your hair is, that speaks volumes. So we love and we honor people who are able to just see you as the being that you are,
One thing that I experienced it wasn't even consciously intending to go into my Akash, but I've just always had these dreams, and they weren't just like regular dreams. They've always felt different. My premonitions, my visions, they have like a different frequency. It's like tuning on a radio. So when I was going into my Akash, I actually saw in a previous life that I was part of this science team, and we were setting up we didn't know what it was because we were all working from different departments. They had us decompartmentalized to where we didn't know what the other person was working on. We just were instructed to go to the spot, hook up your part to where it's supposed to go, and you'll know what you'll need to know afterwards. And after we assembled this device, it ended up shooting something at a planet, and that planet exploded, which is the asteroid belt. And when I came from that, like, I remember the guilt, like we looked at each other like, wait, what did we just do? And like we were a part of, like, we were responsible for this. Even though we didn't know what we were doing, I felt so much guilt, like, what have I done? And I came out of that in the dream state, and I carried that for a while until I really learned how to go within and just forgive myself, because we all have something that we have done in this lifetime, previous lifetime, that we quote unquote regret, but it's just a learning experience. It's a cycle, because we're all in this human experience. It's a video game almost, this reality is zeros and ones, and we're all in these avatars experiencing it. And it's like, okay, I did some crazy stuff. We're not going to do that anymore. I love and forgive myself for doing that. And it really brought me to this point where it's like, wait a minute, if I can do that for myself, I can do that for everyone else.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
I would like to ask a question to kind of bring it all together. How would you suggest for someone who is going through guilt or shame? I was saying them together in my mind. Guilt or shame. How do they deliver themselves from that emotion or from depression or rage and anger? Like, how do you deliver yourself? How do you alchemize those emotions and become the extraordinary self that you are?
I do want to jump in because this is one of my favorite topics and frankly something I love to share about. First off, let's differentiate guilt from shame.
Mhm.
Guilt is when we feel bad about something we did or didn't do. Shame is when we feel bad about who we are. Okay, so just to differentiate, shame is I am not enough, or I am, it's about me. Guilt is about an action, taken or not taken. And so they're two different things, really. Shame is a lifelong lesson because we are living in a culture that is extremely shaming. Most of us grew up in the Judeo-Christian world, and in the Christian world, we honor someone who died for our sins, was tortured and crucified for our sins, right? I've always had a fantasy of an alternate reality where instead of in the church, you got a guy hanging on a cross. I'd rather, what would it be like if we went into a church where Jesus and Mary Magdalene were in Yab Yab? And that's what we were celebrating, right? Anyway, so we have all this shame indoctrinated on us. So shame, it's a lifelong lesson, lifelong lessons of learning to love ourselves, learning to accept myself, accept my humanness, accept myself, love myself. Now, guilt, the key to overcoming guilt is to find the beauty of your care underneath the guilt. If you didn't care, you wouldn't feel guilty. You'd be a sociopath. So anybody who feels guilty, congratulations, you're not a sociopath. And so I feel guilty because I don't call my mother as often as I should, as an example. My mom actually passed away, but as an example. Well, find the beauty of the care that you have for your mother, right? So you can always find care underneath the guilt and swim in the sea of your care, as opposed to staying in the spiral of the mind fuck of guilt, because guilt is that, it's a mind fuck, part of my language. But it's the best way of describing it. And the sad part, the last thing I'll say, the sad part of both guilt and shame is they put us into paralysis. They trigger the freeze reaction of our own reptile brain. And so often when we are in guilt or we are in shame, we freeze. And then when we freeze, we're not capable, we don't function very highly, and then we feel more guilty or more shameful, and it becomes a spiral down. So way out of it, the beauty of your care, self-love, and appreciating yourself for what you do, appreciating for what you have accomplished. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to share that.
I love that.
Of course.
Yes.
And it was kind of a question derived from what Dorina was sharing in the comments, just about the awareness of all of these things that are going on globally, the tragedies that are going on globally, and feeling like there should be more that I should be doing, So I think Omashar mentioned it earlier. We have to first answer and attest to what's going on inside of us first. And then outwardly.
It is, and Scott, I've never heard it explained like that before, because I've always lumped guilt and shame to the same ball, and that is just so clear. The differentiation there. Thank you.
Yeah, that's
Yes.
beautiful.
Yes.
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, how about we wrap this up with the Omashar classic?
Yes.
Well, we can. Okay, the classic Omashar is. I was mentioning earlier how you can have a song, and it could be. You could put Ave Maria to rap music, for instance, and so I've played this. I played this song a couple of nights ago on the Global Peace Tribe, The Awakening World, and it's called Out of the Blue. But I'm just going to show you how it can go from something very simple and beautiful, how I wrote it, to I ended up putting it into 90s pop and with a little dubstep bit in the middle, just because it tickled my fancy, and hopefully it'll tickle some of your fancies too. Got to press a couple of buttons here.
My fancy is very ticklish.
So it was kind of written like this. Goes. Whatever happened to the ones that came before? Did they just vanish into the blue? I thought that was a nice song. I could sing that to my mum. But I rewrote it. I've still got my echo stuff on, so excuse me. I rewrote it like this. So we don't have Eleanor here, but we do have Frode. Hey, brother. Whatever happened to the ones that came before? Did they just vanish into the blue? Maybe they're living the dream we know to be true, and reaching their hands back out of the blue. My heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true. There's nothing here to hold me back from you. The clouds of my life have blown away. My lightness of being lifts me every day. I find myself feeling not so blue. Heart is so ready to embrace all that's new. I feel the love calling for me to break on through. With peace on my mind, I know that I'm coming to a new way of life that feels so true.
Thank you, thank you,
Yes,
thank you. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Omashar. You guys are so amazing. And everyone watching, thank you so much for tuning in. And join us February 18th at the Integrator Summit. All you have to do is go to theintegratorsummit.com and sign up. It's a free event. It's going to be amazing.
It's a free.
It is a free.
And look at all the amazing people you guys have.
Yes. It's going to be outstanding for sure.
It's going to be spiritually lit.
Yeah. Yes.
Uh,
So go to theintegratorsummit.com.
The Integrator
Integrator
Summit.
Summit. all right.
Yep. And sign up today. Thank you
Yes.
guys.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Frode and George and Dorina, Donna, Karen for being with us, and everybody watching on Facebook or watching the recording. Thank you so much. I see Dorina registered for the summit last night. Thank you, Dorina.
Yes.
Look forward to seeing you guys on the 18th, if not before.
Awesome.
Oh, yes.
Take care.